Okay, good afternoon, John.
Hi, Marty.
Last Friday in August, where has the time gone? We started this in early May, and here we are still exploring
Yeah,
the wonder of our
last week
being.
in August, and it's 2020. I never in my life imagined me being here, and let alone talking to somebody. It's amazing to me. I am so grateful to be here now
Yes,
in this moment. Oh my God.
yes, and may there be many, many more.
Yes.
So as I shared with you a few days ago, I followed up on the recommendation that you offered to check out the work of Neville Goddard. And I
Yes.
never heard of the guy. He was born in the early 20th century and lived till I think 1972. And his work falls broadly in the category that we've been discussing. I call it New Thought. It's not clear to me from his bio how much connection he had with some of that New Thought current that was going on in the country at the time. But he very much is in the same world as Norman Vincent Peale or Eric Butterworth or Ernest Holmes or all these 20th century folks, up to the people that wrote and produced the movie The Secret.
Right.
So, what struck me, so the book I read, he's written a number of things, is I think it's called the Feeling is the Key.
Yes.
And I was attracted to that title because of the accountability practice. And what I've learned in the accountability practice, and I've seen it in our Rusty Nail meetings time and time again, is that somehow there's something primary about the emotional state that becomes a creative force. And much of the trauma that we have comes from something you said a couple of podcasts ago, that trauma is essentially emotion that's been quashed or prevented from completion, from just running through. And so my take from that is that that emotion then lives somewhere in the subconscious as trapped energy and often gets released in painful ways or ways that are counterproductive to my adult desires. And so, so I was attracted to that Goddard piece because of the title. And when I listened to a podcast, somebody reading it, I haven't read the book yet. I'm getting it from Amazon, but I was blown away by his uncompromising insistence on the primacy of feeling in the work of creativity as part of the essential, that all creation comes as a result of an energetic, emotional, feeling dynamic operating in my subconscious that responds to conscious impressions without judgment, that whatever I speak, the subconscious hears and says, okay, let's go. I could say, I want to feel depressed. I'm feeling depressed, and the subconscious will go, okay, let's go. Here comes depression.
Yeah.
And I can easily say, I'm feeling superb, and the subconscious goes, okay, let's produce superb feelings. So what struck me about it is how coherent this is with the method that you developed. And I'd just like to start our conversation by reading a couple excerpts. I started to transcribe these things, and so let me just read a few of these things, John, and then I'd like to hear what your thoughts are, if you're okay.
Yeah.
The first thing he starts off, he says, consciousness is the one and only reality. That, by the way, parallels, Ken Wilber says the exact same thing. He says, the conscious is personal and selective. The subconscious is impersonal and non-selective. The conscious is the realm of the effect. It's a masculine orientation. And the subconscious is the realm of cause, and that's a feminine orientation. So he calls these the masculine and feminine aspects of the consciousness. Conscious ideas, he says, are impressed onto the subconscious, while the subconscious expresses all that are impressed upon it. Conscious truth assumptions, that is, assumptions that we hold consciously, have no bearing on subconscious expression. Through our power to imagine and feel, and our freedom to choose the idea we will entertain, we have control over creation. Control of the subconscious is accomplished through control of our ideas and feelings. One more paragraph. The subconscious transcends reason and is independent of induction or inductive reasoning. It contemplates a feeling as a fact, existing within itself, and on this assumption proceeds to give expression to it. Ideas are impressed on the subconscious through the medium of feeling. No idea can be impressed on the subconscious until it is felt, but once felt, be it good, bad, or indifferent, it must be expressed. So that's how he starts this book, by talking about this, the realm of the conscious, subconscious, and emotion and idea. And that's what we work with in accountability.
Yes. Yeah.
So your thoughts?
When he talks about it, he refers to control. And I might have to read that again. When we control the conscious ideas and beliefs. I want to offer that Neville Goddard is inspired. He's a modern day mystic. And his interpretation of the Bible is so forward thinking that it's going to take a long time before a lot of people understand what he's saying. And in that, he uses the language of the old paradigm to explain.
Right.
It's when he refers to control, that is a force thing, or it's seen as, I used to hear control as something I can do or something that I exert. And my idea of my life is now not about control, it's about embracing. It's about being in the flow. And when my conscious mind is in a flow based on my intents, there's no control, and yet there's guidance. And the guidance that I consciously offer myself, I'll give you an example, it is my intent to live a life of peace. That was one of the first intents I came up with early in my recovery. That guidance mechanism avails me to information about manifesting peace. It's a process. It's a fluid, dynamic, organic process. And we don't have the language other than what I just said to describe this. So we use terms, old paradigm terms like control, power being one of them. Power implies force or will power. We've got will and power as synonymous, or one word. It's a one phrase statement meaning. And the original, and I got this from Goddard too, is that will is power. It's not willpower. It's not something I'm doing to make it happen. My will mixed with this feeling tone is the creative power. I simply guide it. I simply embrace what I have. And what I have when I started my recovery is a lot of misinformation about who I am at my essence and how I relate to people, places, and things. From that misinformation, I lived a life of struggle, of addiction, of control, of enmeshment, of insecurity, of the belief that there was something wrong with me. And that constellation of beliefs, along with my feelings of, I'm going to say helplessness or need to control, intensity of fear, let's say fear, kept creating my life the way it was. And then Neville Goddard comes along and says, all that stuff you just read, and for most people, it has no place to stick. It has no point of reference. So we use old points of reference to try to assimilate this new information. The accountability process in the intentional living, tell the truth, whatever's, and the truth, by what I mean by the truth is, do I find myself arrogant, entitled, mean, controlling, needy? And my truth at the beginning was describing a character defect. That truth resonates with my subconscious, subjective belief system, and there's a coherence. This is like whole counterintuitive. So when I say I'm arrogant, it validates that subjective feeling, emotion, tone, and it's a connection to myself. And I become lucid in the feeling of my truth, which isn't who I am. That's how I've come to believe. I've come to believe that I am my behavior. So when I say I'm arrogant, it's a validation, because that subconscious misinformation knows that if I display arrogance, I can recreate my family of origin survival chemistry. It doesn't care about my current reality because it doesn't know the difference between time. It's
right. So
always
can I stop you there? Just, I'm thinking about someone who's hearing this for the first time. So I want to emphasize that chemistry that you just referred to that gets recreated, it's actually not being recreated. It's just being expressed because it's living in the subconscious, comes from our earliest experiences when, as little children, we're born as just little love machines. And so whatever it is that presents itself to us in our family environment, however painful and however dysfunctional, we are going to assume is what love is. And then we're going to go look for that for the rest of our lives, unless a greater or more powerful emotion intervenes. And he talks about that, you know, not just a few paragraphs after what I just read. And you have said that before as well. So I wanted to make sure that the person who's hearing this for the first time gets that we're addressing that all of these, what we use the term belief system, but they actually start out as feeling states before they even become beliefs.
Yes.
Live in our subconscious until they get released. And they live in our subconscious as traumatic recapitulation of what we experienced as little infants and children, because we can't not love and we can't not seek to be loved. So for me, I had love is I'm all alone and I got to only take care of myself. And then that's what I did for my whole life until I got involved with this work. And then I could bring it in, like he says, I can bring it into the consciousness now. And I can create a new idea that my subconscious is now capable of grabbing onto and now expressing this new idea.
And it's also, one of the things I want to clarify, it's also creating body chemistry.
Correct.
Cortisoids. When I'm in a fluid, happy tone, content place, my body is flooded with serotonin. It actually creates physical chemistry. Our body is the most sophisticated pharmaceutical lab ever created. So a thought, feeling, or feeling thought actually creates a compound that fuses throughout our body, infuses throughout our body, and that's our physical experience of our emotional state.
Correct.
So throughout my whole life, what I learned as a child to create cortisols, which are stress hormones, and I survived. It believes that stress hormones are vital to my life vitality. So I recreate in my relationships chaos, stress, to produce that cortisol. And I wish I was more articulate about the different chemicals. And to tell you the truth, I really don't care. I just know that whatever they are, I can sense by my mood, my tone, my feeling tone, that whatever it is I wanted, if it's norepinephrine or dopamine or serotonin, and it's given me the feeling of aliveness and capacity to connect, which those chemicals do. Cortisoids and adrenaline create separation. They're designed to do that. And so my unresolved emotional state trauma wants to reproduce the body chemistry because I survived it. So now we're in a conversation about what's the way out. First, we got to get clear of where the hell we're at and how this mechanism works. It's not, you cannot break it down. It's all one thing.
Correct.
Mind, body, spirit. So there is, when I talk about my essence, it's in this manifestation, this human condition, this is always happening in unison. There's never a time where it's not working together. And when we talk about emotions or thoughts or feelings, we see them as separate. So we have the language to say, well, I had this feeling and my thought was, no, that was all one thing. It was all one thing. And the subconscious is 7/8 of my total experience. And like Goddard said, whatever the feeling emotion is, needs be expressed. So I'm in an argument with a woman, and I'm finding myself screaming and yelling, slamming the door, going into my bedroom. Well, and I'm wondering at my own behavior, that's the recreation of my family of origin body chemistry. And I have no idea this is going on. So then I judge it like there must be something wrong with me.
But hold on 1 second. So it's not just the recreation of your body chemistry, but it's also the behaviors connected with. There's a pattern of behavior that running into the room and slamming the door, that's not a feeling, that's a behavior. And again, to underscore what you just said, those things are one.
Yes.
So you almost couldn't have the feeling without the running into the room and slamming the door until you became conscious of that was going on.
Right. Yeah.
So the whole fight, flight, freeze, or please thing is not just a feeling, but it's also the generation of a pattern of behavior. So again, those two things are occurring. And that's why, for me anyway, I pick up on what you said. It's like, then after I go, why did I do that? It's your classic question. Have you ever discovered you were on the wrong side of an argument and continue to argue it anyway? It's that classical, you're one of your three foundational questions when people start out doing this work. Because there's that feeling, behavior pattern, thought thing going on as one unit, even though with our rational minds, we can pick them apart and say, well, this was the thought, this was the feeling. But the point that I think you're saying here, and I certainly think that's what Goddard is saying, is this is all one thing going on.
Happening, yeah. The behaviors are the expression of the internal.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And separating myself from my behaviors is the core of this work. And reframing that pool of information in the subconscious will manifest a different behavior automatically. I don't have to go, well, next time this happens, I will count to 3, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. If I affect that subconscious, like using the word arrogant, and I get the feeling of that truth in it, and then I say it is my intent to be kind and courteous or gracious, then that fuses with the subconscious and it will express. It might be a combination of this experience of, oh my God, I'm arrogant. I can see that it's in alignment with my childhood. It is my intent to be kind and gracious. That fuses in, and then the behaviors shift automatically. And I simply pay attention to where I find myself in the next moment in my life. And that again tells me what this pool of information is acting on, the belief or the concept. And it has to do, I don't know if I want to introduce another concept, but it has to do with my identity. Mm-hmm. Is it the essence of who I am, or is it the image that I want to uphold, which is a significant difference. I went ahead and did it anyway.
Well, exactly. And, so let's go back to, because you were commenting on this, control of the subconscious is accomplished through control of our ideas and feelings. And as you were talking about this being old paradigm language, yeah, I thought maybe we could rewrite this to say, control of the subconscious is accomplished through consciously choosing our ideas and feelings.
How about if we use transforming the subconscious?
Right.
It's in embracing the current reality. Embracing that I'm arrogant, which is saying I'm arrogant without blame or judgment.
Right.
Stating the data, right. That's embracing. I'm a mean, I'm a bad dad. Okay, embracing that, just saying the truth about it. And the body knows how to feel, function, shift, incorporate all by itself. I simply got to get to the truth without blame or judgment. Those are key. As soon as I go, well, that was a dumbass move, this whole thing shuts down.
Right, right.
And all it hears is, I'm a dumbass. And then we'll continue to create the chemistry and the behavior and the right. That I'm saying, swearing I'll never do again. And then 2 minutes later, find myself in a full-blown, what I call downward spiral.
So here's the breakthrough I got about accountability practice from listening to the Goddard book. And that is I'm trying to find the right expression here. The absolute essential nature to focus on the feeling primarily. So I didn't get, until I listened to Neville's work, how primary the emotion is. The emotion is first, the thought is second. And I get that as a developmental sequence, that's exactly how we develop. We develop yes. Emotionally long before we develop rationally. And yes. So of course, our rational development is going to be impacted by our emotional development. How could it be otherwise? Yes. And so I was listening to your talking a few minutes ago. You said when you first started doing this work, you set an intention to experience a life of peace.
Yes.
And what I got as I listened to that is, according to Goddard, that peace has to be associated with a feeling state, because otherwise it's just a word to the mind.
Let me
just a word to the subconscious. So he says you have to generate a feeling that is coherent with the word, so that the feeling is getting brought into the subconscious through the idea.
So Marty, when I first came up with that right. thought, I was sitting in a meeting, and they were reading the problem. What they now have is the trait list, and they were saying things like,
"You're talking about adult children of alcoholics, meeting
adult children of alcoholics," And everything they said in there that was a result of being raised in a dysfunctional household, seeing criticism as a threat, being scared by angry people, addicted to excitement, and I heard chaos. In that feeling tone of, oh my God, they know me, is where the thought came, I want some inner peace.
Right.
And in that feeling place of safety, where I was simply in the awareness of what they were saying. I didn't understand what they were saying. I just felt something. And then I heard myself say, I want, and
Right.
the first thing I said is, I want a moment of peace. And that led me to consciously ask for what I wanted based on where I found myself in that feeling tone. And that's the accountability process.
I just want
That's
to,
it in a nutshell.
I want to reify it to you because that's my experience. My experience, not only for myself, but working with people in the meetings, is that once I get to the truth, which now expresses itself as a feeling, I'm arrogant, I'm withholding, I purposely harmed you because I was hurting.
Right.
And now I get the impact of being a harmful person, a cruel person. That releases an emotion. And of course, as you noted, correspondingly, there's a whole bunch of electrochemical reactions going on that I'm identifying intellectually as an emotion. But here's where I saw the secret, and this is where I really, like, my jaw dropped when I was listening to Goddard, is that, and you've always said this, and I've known this to be true intellectually, but now I think I'm getting it on a different level, which is now I'm in the truth of, and the truth is expressing itself through this feeling, this emotion, and it's now got a vibratory reality in my present experience.
Yes.
And so now the facilitator goes, okay, that's great. In that feeling state, what do you want? What I learned to do early on is to not let my mind answer that question, but to ask my body to answer it.
Yes.
So I would just go into the feeling and say, what do you want?
What do you want?
And the body always has an answer, always.
Yes.
And I
Always.
just never understood the mechanism until I listened to Goddard. And the body will say, I want peace. I mean, my body always just wants joy, peace, or freedom.
Yes.
It's almost invariably one of those. And so now I get to set that as an intention. Now, this is how I'm controlling my thoughts and feelings. I'm not really controlling them in that old paradigm sense. I'm creating them, actually.
Yes.
I'm now creating them in partnership with my feeling body, my thinking body, and my intuitive body of my soul, all going down into the subconscious and changing that internal chemistry.
Yes.
Slowly but surely.
Mm-hmm.
For some of us, it might be like falling off our horse, like St. Paul, but for most of us, it's an iterative process, because it was an iterative process to get here in the first place.
Yes.
So for me, it was 50 years of, I'm all alone, I have to take care of myself, don't come close to me. Day after day, reifying that over and over and over again, all in my subconscious, not in the least bit aware of what I was doing. So now I'm willing to let it take whatever time it takes, because my goal now is to just fall in love with all of it and just let it be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that, for me, that's the new insight I have into this beautiful accountability practice. And it will help me as a facilitator support people coming into that emotional presence, and to support them staying there, and to let that emotional presence give it the answer to what I want in this moment.
Wow. Yeah.
Sometimes people can do that, sometimes they can't. I mean, it's just what we know is that, especially if you're new to this work, it's a challenge just to feel. Many times when we close our meetings, John, we always close with, what do I intend for myself in the upcoming week? And I got to tell you, I'd say at least a third of the time people say, I intend to feel my feelings. Because they're struggling with that. And they get somehow on some level that that's really essential to their recovery.
Yeah, it is.
We always like,
everybody has.
go ahead.
Everybody has their process,
Right,
and their speed, and their
exactly.
and I, as a facilitator, simply create the space for them to explore, with no expectation that, oh wow, you got it, cool, you're on your way. No, no, this is a process, and
right. And that part of the value is, and the reason this has efficacy, is because my emotional state is fluid. And so this is another thing I've come to see in listening to Goddard, is that, again, we've said this before, John, so I'm owning that I'm hearing this with new ears. The emotional state in my body is ever present and ever fluid. And so part of the 7/8 rule, the subconscious rule, is that I can put what I'm feeling into my subconscious and not pay attention to it.
Yep.
So what I know now is that if I'm not having an acute emotion, then I need to stop and pay attention to what I'm feeling, because it's not really grabbing my attention. But the truth is, I'm always expressing an emotional state of some kind or other, which means that the accountability tree is always appropriate if I want to use it.
yes,
Because I'm always feeling something. I'm always having a truth experience. I'm always having a real experience, and it's encased in, or it's characterized by, an emotional, energetic flow. You said it earlier, in the flow. When I get in the flow consciously, then I can go, okay, what do I want? You know what? I want this.
yeah,
Or I want joy. I'm feeling peace. I want to feel joy. I intend to experience joy. Because the energy release inside for joy is different for me than peace.
absolutely, yes.
And eventually, I think that the intentional living includes the possibility, now he goes to say this, control of feeling means disciplining ourselves to imagine and entertain only such feelings as contribute to our happiness. And I think that's part of what the accountability practice helps us do, because it concentrates on liberating from the subconscious all these things that have kept us trapped in certain compulsive ways of being. I can't own I'm arrogant and I can't own it. I'm cruel and I don't own it. So I'm just always acting out, which for me keeps me separate, so that my love equals I'm all alone is never challenged or required to consider transformation.
Right. The four things that block transformation or growth are denial, minimizing, blame, and then collusion. And collusion is talking with somebody else, using denial, enhancing minimization, and blaming somebody else for current reality. And this accountability process, the truth gets you out of denial. I'm arrogant. It's like, I'm not in denial anymore. I'm saying it with in a compassionate space, no blame, no judgment. And it's not minimized. I'm not saying, oh, I'm a little bit arrogant. I mean, that's minimizing. Arrogance is arrogance. And my experience of arrogance has a vibration, and it doesn't need to be qualified. It doesn't need to be categorized. It is that. And it could be on a continuum from 1 to 100. It could 25, and sometimes it could be full-blown 90% arrogance. And it doesn't matter the amount. It matters that I'm recognizing this particular frequency at this moment. No blame, no judgment. Take a breath. My body knows how to process. My body knows what to do with emotion, with feeling. It's the inspiration to my mind to say, it is my intent to be kind and giving and gracious. And that comes, and I learned a new term recently from a group I'm in, and it's called original essence energy. That original, it gave me a word to describe the innocence of infancy or childhood. It's the original energy we came in with. It's the God energy, differentiated as John Donovan in this body, and differentiated as Marty in your body. It's fabulous that it's differentiated, because I get to experience and share with you. You get to experience and share with me on this magnificent journey we're going on. Or we're in an enmeshed relationship and we get to like recognize that we're missing something. The human condition is so magnificently, powerfully built, and it's, well, it's our struggle with free choice, and we don't know how to get to choice in the first place, because we're always expressing old experiences, traumatic experiences, so that they can be healed, so they can be recognized, that something can happen. It's just the way we work. It is my intent now. It is my intent now to walk in beauty, peace, and compassion with an open heart and open mind. And when I say that, I get a flush through my body, because I know that that's what I'm in for. That's, my body knows how to lead me to that. And it's also scary, because it leads me to that through my covert and overt expression of arrogance, and it's embarrassing at times. It's like, holy oh, look how far I am from walking in beauty, peace, and compassion. Own that. It is my intent to walk in beauty, peace, and compassion. Embrace those character defects. I was talking to you a couple Sundays ago, and I was in what I consider a bliss moment. And one of the things I said that popped out was, you asked me how I'm doing. Somebody asked me, and I said, I'm reveling in my character defects. And this conversation is about embracing those aspects of yourself that are damaged. Revel in them, because they were set in place to protect you, and their charge is to protect you. And when you fight those, they simply lock down and compress into more, and it's like,
and they take no prisoners.
They take no prisoners. It's impersonal.
Correct.
It doesn't care where you spend your life. It doesn't care. I used to work with inmates. It doesn't care if they spend the rest of their life in prison. It does not care. It will be expressed.
Well, what's interesting to me, as you were saying, as you were sharing what you were just saying, is it struck me that when we make a commitment to own our character defects without blame or judgment, we're actually doing what the subconscious does automatically.
Yes.
The subconscious, according to Goddard, does not blame or judge. The subconscious takes whatever it is we say and goes, okay.
Okay.
So in a certain way, when we make a commitment to live consciously without blame or judgment, we're creating an integration with our subconscious methodology that we weren't aware of before. And now that's a real powerful combination. When my subconscious and conscious are in alignment, then there is no obstacle to intentional living, to creating what I want, setting the intention, and then letting it go, because my conscious and subconscious minds are now in partnership. It's like
let me express step 11 with a different word than higher power. Sought through prayer and meditation to increase my conscious contact with my original essence energy, seeking only the knowledge of its will in my life and the power to carry it out. That, oh my God, that is like, yes, original essence.
Only I would get rid of the word seeking and I would substitute owning.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's there's always ways to improve. Absolutely.
Because the word seek, as someone's pointed out, the word seek implies I don't have it.
And it's a recognition that you don't have it. And one of the I think it was the Sermon on the Mount, knock and it will be open, seek and you shall find, ask and it shall be given. so that's what the word seek means to me. And I know it means something different than everybody else. So it actually fits me real good because I consider myself a seeker. And I'm seeking this original essence energy to manifest prolifically on this planet. And I enjoy that with other original essence energies manifesting prolifically on this planet.
Right.
Yeah. So yes.
But I get the concept of seeker, and I'm not a seeker, so I'm a prospective owner.
Okay, got it. And that's how it feels good to you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what counts. That's exactly what counts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
there's no one right way to do this.
No, thank God. There's 7 billion ways, as far as I know. At least that's my spec. I can't ever prove that because I don't have time to interview all 7 billion of us, but I'm inducing that as a possibility. So the other thing is that when we create this alignment between the subconscious and the conscious, again, there's a feeling state. When you said a few moments ago, you said something to the effect of this, that when you were reveling in your character defects, it produced a feeling. And you said, I forget the words that you use, like blissful or whatever. Again, just to point out that there's always a feeling state that's associated with something that the mind subsequently labels. So the feeling always comes first, and the mind catches up. We go, oh yeah, that was this, that, and the other thing. Well, okay, that's fine. Yeah. But again, to emphasize the primary focus on feeling is the pathway to this transcendence. And again, I don't know why this seems so shocking and revelatory to me, but it does.
I did a workshop one time, and the title was, it was for ACA group, and the title was the laundry list will set you free.
Right.
So owning character defect, well, that's the way I maintain sobriety. Is first I had to own that I was powerless against the substance. And it wasn't the substance itself. The substance had no addictive power at all. It was the emptiness or the expression, lack of expression internally that alcohol filled up. So I'm John, an alcoholic, was the beginning of sobriety. I'm John, I'm arrogant, was the beginning of graciousness.
Well, I've always said that love has 3 energies, and it starts with acceptance. So I own my character defect. Then it goes to embrace. I don't just accept it, but I want it. I want to be with it. And then the third element, it then blossoms into delight. I revel in my character defects. So when I can say I revel in all of the angst that I have, I revel in my incapacity to stop judging people politically I don't agree with, to just be with it and be willing to see and experience the feeling state that goes with that, then I can ask, what do I want? I can always come back to that. And so that's why I fall in love with my character defects, because they lead me to asking these questions. They get me out of my complacency, which is a natural state. It's easy to be complacent as a human because 7/8 of our consciousness is sub. And so that creates an inertia that we could easily rest on top of without ever examining what's going on down there.
Yeah, my daughter used the term normalizing dysfunctional behavior.
Right.
and that holds true for me. It's like, oh, that's just the way it is. That's
Exactly.
the way I am.
Exactly.
Well, it happens to be the way you are now, and it's not your original essence energy.
Exactly. We actually worked on that in the meeting last night. Somebody decided that her inability to please God was okay.
Wow, that was remarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so of course when she got there, then I said, so how do you feel? And people feel relief.
And that's
The truth sets them free.
Yeah. I'm beginning to recognize that feeling that I called relief as expansion.
Yeah.
The sense of expansion, the sense of lightness, the sense of openness, spacious. Yeah.
It's also joy. And what I find is people from dysfunctional families, AKA me, resist joy as if we're betraying our family of origin dysfunctional system by feeling good.
Yep.
And the other insight I have about joy is also a sensation that you can't control. So if I feel too joyful, I feel out of control. So I just noticed when I'm facilitating meetings and I get to what do you want, boy, people will do anything to avoid saying I want to feel good.
Yeah.
It's really in a certain way it's hilarious, and then once people get it, it shifts everything.
Yeah.
Like you mean you want to feel happy? And people get this look of consternation. Happy? Can I feel that?
Yeah. Cool. I'm really glad we're having this conversation at this level. It's just.
Well, I'm really grateful that not only that you turned me on to Goddard, but I'm grateful that I decided to listen.
Yeah, and anybody that's listening to the podcast and wants to check anything out that Goddard does, and by the way, one of his mentors was Troward.
Oh yeah, Thomas Troward.
Troward, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and really cool. Again, for those who might be new to this process, there's a whole body of inquiry that started. It started back in Egypt. Pharaonic era, Hermes Trismegistus, the earliest alchemists who transmitted this knowledge to the Greeks and ultimately to monotheists in Palestine, and ultimately that Jesus guy that some of us have heard of.
Yeah.
But there was a modern expression of it that came in the U.S. after the Civil War, which is generically called New Thought, the most famous expression of which is Christian Science. But there were other expressions, including the Unity Church that I go to, or the Religious Science or Divine Mind Church that you've attended, John, and then there are these secular versions of it, like I mentioned, Norman Vincent Peale and Deepak Chopra, and all those who began to understand the power of the mind to create the world through our thoughts.
Yeah.
And so Thomas Troward, I'll just complete the thought. Thomas Troward was a British cleric who also lived around the same time as Goddard in the early 20th century, who developed his own version of this. And so that helps me get that this is a universal reality because it's been developed in so many cultures independently of one another, but all saying the same thing.
Yes.
That there's a coherence of understanding that's cross-cultural, and it's also cross-historical epochs. So that means to me, now wearing my little rational brain, that this bears investigating. I mean, a one-off thing, that's different. But when people are saying the same thing across eras, across cultures, then there just might be some coherence worth looking at. In fact, it was Aldous Huxley wrote a famous book on all that called the Perennial Philosophy in the 1950s, where he actually took a look at what was true of all religious expressions, and this is what was true. There's only one of us, and we create our world with how we think about it.
Yeah. And then we're getting into the logistics of the mechanism, the creative mechanism in the reticular activating system, subconscious pool, subjective subconscious pool of information that simply expresses based on what you tell it. It doesn't equivocate. It doesn't say, well, that was a dumbass idea. It just says,
not going to do it.
Yeah, okay, let's go. And then you're in this chaotic, enmeshed, violent life and wonder, how did I get here? Well, you either got showed an example, you got dismissed, you got traumatized, and this is your fix for that.
Right.
It's all in alignment with this mechanism, and embracing it is the way out of it. Embracing it, owning it, and then saying what you want that's different than what you got. See, as human beings, we're created to simply notice the difference. Just if there's a slight difference in something, that alerts us to pay attention. So that's where the judgment comes from. People say, well, I don't want to judge. Well, I'm saying, well, too bad, because that's how you take in information. Now, you can use judgment as a weapon, or you can use judgment as an observation to empower self and others. It's the same mechanism. You still see the difference. You still see the tone quality. You feel something, and there's a discord or there's a harmonic. You feel all that. That's judgment. Now, how do you want to use that judgment? You want to make it an observation? That's how I couch it in my experience. It's an observation for what? For my expansion and your expansion, if that's what you choose to do. If I'm choosing my expansion and you're definitely choosing not being expansive, I just simply move away. It's none of my business. It's none of my business what you do, how you do. I'm taking care of myself. If I get somebody that's curious, I'm excited. I'm excited. Let's talk. Let's do this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when we say without blame or judgment, we're without blame or diminishment.
Yes.
Because judgment, the same word can mean discernment, or it can mean critique and diminishment.
I like that. And I know that's a big part of the accountability process, the word judgment. And I'm going to look at how to substitute maybe a word for that that's more descriptive of what we're talking about. Blame.
That'd be helpful. That'd be helpful, because I remember early on when you were facilitating our men's work, and I would notice that I was unable to stop myself from judging, like you just said.
Yeah.
And so what I was able to say is, I give myself permission to judge. I'm not going to judge that I judge.
Right.
And so really what I meant was, I'm not going to diminish or belittle the fact that I've got judgments. But I had to use the same word because I hadn't gotten this sophisticated yet.
Yeah.
So
cool.
So yeah, it might be worth taking a look at that, just to help the newcomer get the essence of what's going on. But I think most people get without blame or judgment. They don't necessarily think about it too deeply, because they kind of get, without criticizing myself.
Yeah.
Is what they hear.
That may be the word, without blame or
self-criticism.
Yeah, destructive criticism or.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna let that sit. See if something comes up. Yeah.
Or
right
without blame or self-violence. But anyway, we'll just let the higher power show us the way on this one.
Yeah. If it's meant to be, it'll change. It's been changing since I
Yeah,
started this process, and I'll add to it when I see that it works.
exactly.
No problem. And the people that are now facilitating this are coming from their perception, their experience, and that is just beautiful to me. It's, people used to say you need to clone yourself, and I don't want to.
Good
What
luck
I
with
want
that.
is other empowered people that know how to express this differently than me, so we can reach more people.
Yeah, not even Jesus tried to clone himself.
Yeah, yeah. Jesus wasn't a Christian. So
Just like
and
just like the Buddha wasn't a Buddhist.
no, no. And his thing was empowerment. And these things and more you will do. So if I think I'm like the end all be all, please turn me off right now. Just go away. Go to somebody else, because I'm a dangerous man.
Yeah, but he wasn't. Interesting. Again, the language gets subtle. He wasn't about empowerment in the sense that he was empowering anybody. He was about discover the power within.
Yes.
Here's what I did. Here's what you can do, and then greater things. If you do what I did, you accept the Father and you are one. Then greater things than I've done, you will do.
Yes.
But first, you got to say yes. This goes back to what we said at the very beginning. We have to participate actively in creating the world. Otherwise, the subconscious will continue to create the world we created when we were unaware of what we were creating.
Yes. Yes.
You can't not create.
Cannot not manifest. Yeah, you cannot
Right.
not create. Absolutely. You are a creative being, and it's happening all the time.
Exactly.
24/7.
So just to wrap up, my insight, and thank you so much for sharing your thoughts about this, came from reading this Neville Goddard, actually listening to this Neville Goddard book, Feeling is the Key, and getting a whole new appreciation for this power that is at the bedrock of the accountability practice, the feeling energy state, which we always are having. When we can link it up with our conscious mind, becomes a transformative experience that allows us to consciously create whatever we want and stop being a reactor, as they say in 12 steps, and become an actor. I actively choose the life I live. I no longer respond to hidden impulses, compulsions, fears, belief systems. I now partner with them. I learn to love them and revel in them so that I can do greater things than Jesus did with my Christ nature.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a contest, by the way. It's not a contest.
Yeah.
I'm not here to out Jesus.
All right.
I'm here to be the best Marty that I can be.
There you go. Yeah, very good.
So final thoughts as we wrap up.
Language creates reality. My internal dialogue is manifest in real time. And my charge, or my challenge, is to create the language of empowerment for myself and others. That's pretty much what I want to say.
All right. Well, before we wrap it up, I want to just encourage those of you who are listening, maybe for the first time, if you want to know more about John's work, you can get a hold of John directly. He'd be happy to chat with you and meet with you. The way to contact him will be at the end of this podcast. Or if you'd like to experience the accountability practice real time, engage in it yourself with a group that have been doing this for a while. We have a Monday night and Thursday night meeting that's based here in Sacramento, California, but we do it on Zoom. So anybody can, if you're willing to stay up late on the East Coast, or be early if you're watching from Hawaii, or you want to join us from Australia tomorrow, information on how to join those meetings is also at the end of this podcast. They're at 6:30 to 8:30 Pacific Daylight Time. And you can get in touch with me, and I'll be happy to send you an invite. So thanks again, John, for your time, and look forward to sharing more with you next week.
Okay, sounds good, Marty. Thank you.
Okay.